Hello, everyone. Sorry about that. Had some technical difficulties there for a second. Can everyone hear me? Hello? Just want to check the chat. All good now? Great. Okay. Hi, guys. Sorry about that. I didn't know how to cut the camera off, so I decided to set up in here. Okay, great. So yeah, I've haven't got too long because I don't want to cross over with Real's stream. He started a bit early tonight. But I do want to share a few things with you guys while I'm here. Let me just plug in the charger. There we go. Okay. So how do I do this? I guess the first thing we could talk about is the Alice in Wonderland references on the show recently. So I think best thing to do would be to share my screen and go to the appropriate page where I can show you how I predicted Alice in Wonderland references before season 3 came out. And maybe that'll help explain where I'm coming from with my theory. So let's see. Here we go. Let me share my screen here. What was it? Part 4, I think? Yeah. Okay. Hopefully everyone can see that. Great. Okay, so as some of you may know, I believe that on the show, there is an origin story. And I believe this origin story takes place between the years of 1498 and like 1503, more or less. In this origin story, there's like a whole history before this origin story takes place that covers all sorts of mythologies, where these 7 sort of beings from that begin in Eden, and 3 of them are fallen angels, Sariel, Shamsiel, and Azazel. And isn't it interesting? Again, something I predicted at the end of season 2, and now in season 3, we have Elgin and Julie having a conversation about Bible study and also angels and how they can be scary. So I believe that 3 of the 7 monsters are fallen angels. Anyway, so over various mythologies where they represent different mythological beings. So you'll see Greek mythology references on the show. That's because there's a Greek timeline where the boogeyman in the current timeline was briefly the Minotaur. And also Polyphemus. He becomes Polyphemus in certain parts. So Polyphemus is the Cyclops. So that's why we're starting to see Cyclops references on the show. It's also why Randall calls Jim a P word at a playground. Interestingly, Polyphemus was, in his mythology, is a P word. So I thought that was also interesting. So anyway, so long story short, over this mythology, various objects are sort of passed across time and they sort of evolve sometimes. So, for example, I predicted that there's a special pearl that is passed across time. It begins as Aphrodite's pearl. It becomes Cleopatra's pearl. Then it becomes part of a Templar treasure, which, you know, I could explain in more detail, but I won't. And then guess what? Season 3 on the show, we have Victor going on a treasure hunt and collecting a set of pearl earrings and then lifting one pearl up. So I wonder if I have that here. Let me scroll down. Here it is. Elizabeth Taylor's La Peregrina earring, or pearl, actually. So I thought that was pretty cool as well. And basically, my thinking is that at the end of the origin story, these objects that I'm referencing, and you can see some of the ones that I think will show up on the show here. Like, you know, we see someone drinking out of a skull. Now, I knew this from the trailer. It helped me make this guess, but I believe that that's Lord Byron's skull cup, for example. There's various sort of objects that pass across time. And these are the ones I'm thinking about. You know, there's a wedding dress that is found by Tabitha. You know, interestingly, there's a song where one of the lines is something blunt. And then also Jack Bender describes Harold Perrineau as an old Stradivarius in one of his interviews, which I thought was an interesting analogy. And isn't it interesting that there's a blunt Stradivarius, and we have violin references on the show? Even some of the, like, I think they're called finials in Colony House, they look like the end of a violin. So I thought that was pretty cool as well. So anyway, look, the point is that these objects, when they're passed across time, they start, believe it or not, I know this will sound crazy to most people, but as far as I understand it, these objects, they sort of begin their path at Leonardo da Vinci. So I believe that there's a Da Vinci Code quest that's coming up in season 4, probably, where basically the Frommerly in the real world will be following clues. And basically what my understanding is that these objects are handed across time and they sort of scatter through history. And you can literally, and they're basically passed across time by historical creators, like musicians, artists, like painters, but mostly writers and poets, okay? So we've got poetry hidden in the background on the show. We've got writing from like Oscar Wilde's poetry. We've got, and you know, how often have you heard the actors use the phrase wild in interviews and when describing things on social media? Anyway, so basically one of these objects, I believe, is a red book. And I think it's passed across time from Da Vinci, and it actually ends up with Stephen King. So if in season 4, Stephen King gives someone a red diary, I will have made a good prediction. Anyway, so I found that you can genuinely trace the path of each object because the showrunners hide multiple clues on the show in the dialogue by using words repeatedly or awkwardly in certain scenes. And it's super interesting. So you can literally, it's kind of like the Wikipedia game. You can bounce from individual to individual. And you go on their Wikipedia page and you see that the stories they've written, the titles of their works, and sort of key parts about their lives align with the origin story of Fromland, if you manage to solve that. And they also align with like the themes and world of Fromland. And I'm going to try and explain that now through the medium of Lewis Carroll. So Lewis Carroll wrote Alice in Wonderland. Here he is. Yeah, there you go. Lewis Carroll. And so what do we see in the caves? We see that all the objects have been moved and they have to go down an extra tunnel that kind of looks like a rabbit hole. As they're going down this tunnel, you get to the end and there's a tea party there. And, on the show, we have people constantly like looking in mirrors. I'm sure many of you have noticed that. You have many references to tea. Sometimes you've got references to cats, a cat basking in the sun in the Chromonocle book. We've got the black cat in the background downstairs. There are other sort of popular culture references. And while many of you may think like Rosemary's Baby necklace around Fatim's necklace, while many of you may believe that these references are just nods, just little Easter eggs and aren't actually clues to solving the show, I disagree. I think that actually every single reference is a clue to someone in one of these chains. That's where I think it's going. What's interesting about Alice in Wonderland, outside of the rabbit, and there are rabbit clues on the show as well. There's a rabbit in both the intro and on Megan's desk. And Megan means pearl, by the way. Sorry, just thought I'd throw that in there. There is that as well. That the tunnel that they go down at the end is like a rabbit hole in its shape, in my opinion. So anyway, what can I say? What more can I say about this? Well, what was I going to cover now? Okay, so here's another interesting part of this. If I go down here, you may have noticed that there are many references to Lost on the show. So I believe that one of these people is actually someone involved in the creation of Lost. And that's why these crossovers happen. I thought it was going to be J.J. Abrams. But what's really interesting is that, let me see if I can find it, because I wrote about it. Where are you? Okay, here we go. So Mrs. Davis, right? Mrs. Davis. So let me look up Mrs. Davis. What comes up when you Google Mrs. Davis? And if you've seen my main theory video, you'll know that most of the clues on the show, believe it or not, are like sort of structured on Wikipedia. Like it's Wikipedia that you need to be on for some reason. It does like connect if you're using other resources because Wikipedia has real information, but it seems like that's where they like make you follow the chains. It's super interesting actually. But anyway, so we Google Mrs. Davis and what do we find? Well, here's the Wikipedia page for Mrs. Davis. Isn't it interesting? Mrs. Davis is an American science fiction comedy drama television film, television limited series. And who was it created by? Damon Lindelof, who was involved in the creation of Lost. So I believe that that's why this Mrs. Davis is referenced, which is pretty cool. I mean, pretty recent release as well. So, you know, I don't know, maybe Damon Lindelof is good friends with the creators and, you know, and has chosen to drop that Easter egg there. So, you know, that's part of my theory. I thought it was really cool. But let's look at something else as well. Do you remember the toy car that is used on the show? And they make a whole thing of it, right? It's Mrs. Davis's car. Well, check this out. So in my theory, I believe that there's a woman in the 1930s timeline, here we go, called Helenice. There she is. So Helenice is in my theory. Why? Because the word nice is overused on the show. So let's see how many times the word nice is used. The word nice is used 52 times in the first 2 seasons of From. So I was like, okay, that's got to be a clue. So you go on nice on Wikipedia, you look at people with nice in their name, and Hella Nice comes up. And I've seen sort of little toy cars sort of hidden in the background on the show. They made a much bigger deal of it now. So, okay, so what happens when we Google Hella Nice or nice? I don't actually know how to pronounce it. She is race car driver. You know, did visit America multiple times. And let's see what else. You can see the type of car that she drove is exactly the same kind of car that's used. Maybe I can find a better picture on Google Images. Hang on. You can see them here. So again, you know, these connections keep coming up, and you may think I'm reaching, but you know, I see these clues and they connect to things that I've already predicted, which is, you know, maybe it's confirmation bias, certainly could be, but you know, that is how my mind works. That's my approach to the show. That's how I think things are. You know, so oh yeah, so Alice in Wonderland. Sorry, let me go back to Alice in Wonderland. So, you know, isn't it interesting that in Alice in Wonderland, there's multiple sort of sentient cards. You know, you've got the Queen of Hearts. So hang on. Let me see if I can bring it up. Yeah. So here we are. You know, isn't it interesting that there's these sentient cards and the Queen of Hearts is one of the characters. And there's also chess pieces. Let's see. You know, there's the chess aspects of Alice in Wonderland as well. For some reason, I'm not seeing it in the Disney. But anyway, it's connected, right? It's all connected. And then on the show, even if you don't believe my theory that everyone represents tarot card, you know, there's so many people playing cards all the time in the background on the show. They have playing cards on the staircase. You know, you've got to have seen those. And obviously, there's a ton of chess references. Oh, that's what I wanted to show you guys. Let me see if I can get this up. Don't know how I'm going to do this. Cool. Can I share this? Sorry, guys, I'm not very good at Tube. Don't know how to get this image on the screen. Okay, give me a second. Gonna have to share it on Reddit. Just a moment. Okay, just a moment, guys. Sorry about that. Profile. I'll just post it on my own page. No one goes on there anyway. Alice in Wonderland 68 connection. Okay, we'll put this in here and we'll post. And then we will share the screen. Would help if I opened it first, huh? Okay, here we go. Sorry, guys, I'm not very good at this. Here we go. Okay. Right, so hopefully you guys can see this now. So here's something really interesting. So 68 is the main number that's circled when they write out all these speeds, right? All these numbers. And 68 circled here, it's circled here. I believe it's circled elsewhere, but I didn't fit it onto the image. Sorry. But what's interesting is if you search for number 68 and Lewis Carroll, you'll find out that on the show, in the Alice books, specifically Through the Looking Glass, the word white occurs exactly 68 times, and the word red occurs exactly 68 times. Which can't be an accident. So this is interesting because this exact balance between white and red is, it's about color theory and using colors on the show. And I thought it was really interesting that the show hides clues by using words repeatedly. And I wonder whether they're saying, look at how many times something is used as well, maybe. But anyway, I thought that was interesting. So I thought that was an interesting connection there. Maybe that's what the Y68 is circled. I think it's 3 times on here. But it could just be coincidence. Oh, someone's messaged me saying screen's gone black. Can you guys see me on YouTube? All we see is a back screen. Oh no. Okay, stop sharing. Share again. How about now, guys? Can you see it now? Okay, so you can see there all the 68s circled. There should be one more, but it's cut off. Sorry, I should have done a better image. And you can see this thing about how 68 is important. Yeah, you can for Lewis Carroll's books. So yeah, why don't I share one more thing, which would be my theory on what the numbers 1069 means. Let's see, here we go. Hopefully you guys can see that. So I thought it was interesting that they used this number 1069 on the show. And what's also interesting is I think when Boyd wipes off the board with the days without incident, it's 96. So I thought that was really interesting. They used 96 once and then 69 here. And I thought, what if it's not so much, it's about, what if it's trying to tell us that it's not so much about, that it's not so much about the number itself, but the way that they mirror each other. So, and I've said before that I believe because this world is a metaphorical double-sided board game, like that, that crokinole board that's like octagonally shaped, I believe the world of Fromland is like that. So the different parts of town are like different parts of a board game. So for example, isn't it interesting that that Henry asks Ethan about the motel sign and there being no motel, as if to say, hey guys, this is something you should pay attention to. What I found interesting is my understanding is that the main board game that's being played in this part of Fromland specifically is this board game called Game of Goose. And Game of Goose had various hazards. One of the hazards is the inn or the hotel. And basically, I think that in having the motel sign but no hotel, it's telling us that the entire street is the hotel section. And then, so if you think about jail and Monopoly, it's kind of like that. There's these hazards that you can end up stuck in. And then another one is the well. And isn't it interesting that Boyd ends up down a well of some sorts? And then there's also the prison, and there's a prison above the well, you know, that Martin's trapped in, and eventually Julie and everyone are. So you know, that's another thing. And then there should be as well a tomb, a bridge, and death. And it's interesting that Donna describes Colony House as a tomb. So I wonder whether they're saying, this is how you know Colony House is a tomb. I hope we find another tomb somewhere else, maybe. That would be better, in my opinion. And maybe Colony House is part of the hotel section. And then death, I'm going to come on to that now. So since and so because of this double-sided board game, because Game of Goose always had a game called Pachisi on the bottom, and Pachisi had these castle game pieces, 12 of them, that you could use to protect your pieces. So if your piece is near one of these castle pieces, it can't be taken. And I wonder if that's why there's 12 talismans. Maybe those are like carved on what once were the game pieces or something like that. They're like a metaphorical representation of the castles in the game of Pachisi. So Pachisi was always on the underside of the Game of Goose. And isn't it interesting here that we have this sort of world here where there's like a real world on the top or something outside the bubble on the top, so maybe the real world. Then we have Fromtown. You can see the cross here of the church. You know, that's normal Fromtown. Then we have this line, and then underneath we have like an upside down. You can see even one of the houses is falling, sort of metaphorically. And it's got this sort of rainbow Ferris wheel here. And if you don't think that's a Ferris wheel, you can see here in another drawing, this amusement park town. So in my opinion, this amusement park town is based on John Griffin's visit to what I believe he did when I believe that John Griffin was trapped in Newfoundland on 9/11, and this is all connected to Newfoundland. And Newfoundland had a famous sort of entertainment park that was open when John Griffin was trapped in Newfoundland for a few weeks. I think at least a week. I think he must have had to be trapped there if he was stuck there on 9/11, which many people were. There was like this huge airport called Gander, and loads of people who were like in the air when 9/11 happened were redirected there, and then they couldn't leave for ages because all the skies were closed. You know, it was after 9/11. And I think that's where John Griffin, you know, learned to love Newfoundland, and that's why this is all about Newfoundland, my opinion. But in any case, there's this amusement park called Trinity Loop, and I think he based this amusement park on that. And because I think this is all connected to Newfoundland, there must be a Canadian component to this world that we're not seeing. Otherwise, why is it so focused on America when Newfoundland is in Canada? So I think this is a Canadian town. And then also on the show, it's interesting that you see all these crosses in the corner, and then they sort of merge into these trees. And I wonder if that's a clue telling us that when people die, they turn into a tree. And we see these trees sort of randomly springing up around the town. You know, maybe that's a clue. And, you know, that's why the trees move. As people die, the trees start to move as more and more are added. And maybe the faraway trees are dead people, like powerful dead people that have been there a long time, and they can teleport you because they've started to sort of take on a mythology of their own. So what if, right? What if the design is this? The real world is on the top. That's why we see the boy in white in the real world. Maybe the boogeyman can like really manipulate the area around the curse. And because I think the curse is located beneath Cape Race Lighthouse, I think that it's basically the North Atlantic seaboard. So Maine, Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, etc. I think that's like the real world section that he can kind of manipulate. but he's still trapped in the curse, but maybe others can leave and do things for him. Then I think there's the world of the dead. That's 0, right? We know that there's a dead zone because if this is based on the game of Goose. And we know the dead have to hang out somewhere. I mean, they're trees in Fromland, it seems, but maybe like where they are, most of like their souls are somewhere else, but they're sort of in a tree. I don't know how it works, to be honest. And then 69, it's to show these mirrored worlds where there's a American world and a Canadian world. And America's actually on the bottom with the 9. So that's my theory. I know it sounds super tinfoil, but I think 1069 connects to this bubble, which I think kind of represents that a little bit. It doesn't really show us the world of the dead in this, but I imagine the world of the dead is I don't know, actually. Maybe it's in between. Who knows where it's. So yeah. Reel's gone live now. Okay. So that's pretty much let me see if there's anything else I forgot to cover in my when I was talking. Oh yeah. So again, have no idea. Oh, here we go. Okay. Can you guys see this? Yes. Okay, guys, check this out. So on the episode, Ethan is looking at a book about plant identification. And then we have this new curtain we haven't seen before with a plant on it, a flower specifically hung up in the kitchen. And you know what's really interesting? This is a rose that has a red outside and a white inside, I believe. That's kind of what it looks like to me, or at least it's a, and you may be like, that's not a rose, that's not. Check this out, okay? This is really cool. I think that Tudor Newfoundland, like the Tudor era, is when this takes place. This is the Tudor rose. And Henry Tudor is the first Tudor king. He's the king. He's the king when I think when John Cabot's 1498 expedition goes missing and gets marooned in Newfoundland. My opinion. So that's what I think this screenshot, what this flower means. Doesn't it look very similar to a Tudor rose? So again, that's how I'm thinking about the show. It may sound very tinfoil to you. I know I'm not going to convince everyone, but on their own, these data points don't add up to much. But imagine that this is just me explaining a tiny fraction of all the data points I've used to put things together and the references I'm seeing that continue to come up. And a lot of people are saying, you've predicted all this stuff and we're not seeing any of it. I think John Griffin said, this is the beginning of the end. I think that means that it's the end where pretty much all theories are on the table, and season 4 onwards is when it's just answers non-stop. That's what I think. I think season 4 is going to be answers non-stop. I think seasons 1, 2, and 3 were when they gave us all the clues. They're like, okay, 3 seasons worth of clues, 3 seasons worth of answers. That's my opinion. And I think it's 6 seasons because Kenny and Christy discuss chapter 6 of a book and then discuss whether it'll have a happy ending or not. So chapter 6, season 6, happy ending or not. I think it's going to end a bit like Lost. I think they're all going to be in the church. All the dead in white, they're going to be people in white. They're going to be in the church, and then everyone gets to go home. Everyone gets brought back to life. That's my opinion on how it went. Okay, so it's been 32 minutes. Real Enigmas and Theories, who's a friend of mine, is now live. And I think Delcinia is saying, we all need to join the birthday boy. Does that mean that it's Real's birthday? Anyway, look, he started a bit early. I'm going to give him some time to get his shout-outs out the way. But Delcinia, feel free to drop... Oh, you're not a mod for me, are you? Okay, I'll share it then. Where are you? Copy link address. There you go. So feel free to hit that link. I will be joining Real a bit later. These are pretty much most of the things I noticed. I'll give them let me see if there was anything else. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of pain in the ass references lately. And, I thought that Vlad the Impaler and Matthias Corvinus could be on the show for a while. Then I decided not to include them in my theory because it was crazy. And now I'm seeing Fatima drinking blood. I remembered that Matthias is the name of the guy who gets killed with the gun. And I was like, and there's so many vampire references, and I was like, why did I choose not to include it? So anyway, you can believe me or not. I can't edit it now because I said I wouldn't. But I think Vlad the Impaler and Matthias Corvinus fake their deaths along with a whole bunch of other people, I'm guessing. And they all end up in Newfoundland with John Cabot, believe it or not. I know that sounds crazy. I know it does. But I think that there's a lot of people getting impaled on this show. A lot of impaling going on, and a lot of references to pain in the ass. A lot of references to steaks as well. So Salisbury steak is something that is said. And then we also, people's lives are at stake here. I don't need a reminder of what's at stake. And then there's a few references to mistake as well. And sometimes they hide clues inside words, as far as, in my opinion. And obviously we see a big steak being fried by, oh my God, I can't believe I'm blanking her name. The eye patch, Clara, who I love, and I'm very glad to see that actress getting more screen time. And I think that she may be the Two of Spades. So the Two of Swords and the Two of Spades have showed up on the show. So whoever's the Two of Spades is important. Okay, and then what's also, here's another thing. Scales are seen behind Elgin twice. That means I was wrong about Elgin's card. Actually, Tom the barman dies. He was Justice before. Now it's Elgin. So Elgin is the Justice card now. And then we also see in Fatima's social media that one of the cards on the table is another card that means spy or mole of some kind. So is that telling us Elgin's the mole? Or because it comes up twice, I'm starting to think that they're telling us via the tarot cards, because one of the cards, I forgot what it is. I think it's like the Jack of Swords or something. It signifies spying or, sort of mole-ish behavior, basically. And then we get shown the Justice card, Elgin, and then we get shown the Two of Swords, which I think is Clara, because the Two of Swords has a blindfold. And then what else? And then we have the Two of Spades visible in Victor's lunchbox. So Elgin once, Clara twice. Clara more likely to be the mole of the two. Why they've included Elgin at all, I don't know. But that's my thinking there. So I don't think Elgin could be a mole because we know too much about him. Clara, we don't know anything, and she started to act super moley lately. Super moley. She's been last person to leave Colony House. There's a bit of a delay, you might say, between her arrival and when she leaves Colony House and she arrives at the diner. Someone said that to me, actually. I haven't checked that. So yeah, Clara's very moley. And, interestingly, she pops up at these times when the boogeyman's doing something bad. And she always seems to be telling people, we've upset the boogeyman. We've upset the boogeyman. Maybe that's the boogeyman saying, stop cheating, guys. Stop cheating. There's rules that we follow. And you're trying to break the rules. You're digging holes. You're making radio towers. And Clara's being like, look at that. Look at that. She points out the storm early. Maybe the boogeyman wants to play fair. I don't know. Anyway, I think I'm going to end it there. I will publish. Someone asked me to publish. I will publish. But yeah, apparently it's Real's birthday. He hasn't told me that. But yeah, feel free to hit Real's live. I will just go through the comments before I leave, because I want to be grateful to the people who did join my live. So I'm not as good at, I don't know how to bring them up. No, I don't know how to bring them up, but I'll just read them aloud. Yeah, sorry about that. So yeah, I'm going to give a broad shout out to everyone. Hello, Fromley Theory. Nice to see you. I think you're another YouTuber. Thank you for joining. I wouldn't really describe myself as a YouTuber, to be honest. But there you go. Delcinia, very nice to see you. Thank you for joining. I should make you a mod, but I'm not on StreamYard. This is just basic. Maybe I'll pay for it. I don't know. It seems like a lot for a potentially weekly live for just 3-4 weeks. Droid said, I love Taran's theories so much because none of it makes any sense to me, but I see the trail he's following and I want him to be right so bad. Well, thank you, Droid. I get frustrated a little bit with myself, I guess, when people say they can't understand it, like there was this like very unpleasant person posting about me. Sometimes people screenshot when people that I've blocked are like saying mean things about me, you know, and they were saying something along yeah, that it's barely English, they said, something like that, and it's barely it's barely understandable. You know, and I tried to make it as clear as possible. Maybe I'm not that great at explaining things. To be honest, I just wanted to get it like on the page a little bit. Like at the start, I was kind of like trying to explain things, and then as it went on, I was just like, clue. I was just like, here is the answer to the solve, and here's the lists. Perhaps without explaining it quite as much as I should have, but you know, I think if you watch the video that I do where I read through it, I really do talk around it quite a lot. So maybe it's just too, you know, maybe it's just too complicated until you physically see it on the screen because there's so many words, concepts, and like historical references being introduced. I don't know, but you know, that's it. Sorry, I probably went on a bit too long there, but thank you for your comment, Droid. Taryn, what do you believe the repeating numbers in the bottles on the tree represent? Well, I think we got a big clue in that 1597 number, which says Fibonacci. There's a book written by Fibonacci that has like, oh, and then also the Rendermove website has these two numbers. One's Greek, one's Indian. Now, I believe there's Greek mythology on the show. I believe there's an Indian fakir on the show and Indian board games being played. So maybe that's what they're referencing. They're just like Indian thing, Greek thing, clues to Greece and India. But, you know, Fibonacci wrote this book that created the concept of Fibonacci, but he took from Greek mathematics and Indian mathematics. So maybe it's a cipher that if you buy that book and you, which I, you know, I'm just too busy these days, guys. I mean, this is it. I'm doing a live for half an hour. I'm going to do a very quick joining with Real. I said I'd join him at 8. I might drop off now. I don't want to divide the people watching, but you know, anyway, I'll join him in a bit. But you know, this is it for me. I don't have time to start buying books and trying to break ciphers. I really actually I don't enjoy the number stuff very much because it's not something that you can sort of research your way through. You actually need to be clever, you know, and I'm not really as clever as all that. So you know, I can't figure out any of the number stuff really unless it's a historical reference. But like this one seems like it's. I remember Jeff Pinkner, you know, who we don't talk about enough actually. You know, I really want to throw out some respect to Jeff Pinkner right now because. You know, he's helped guide John Griffin to create this amazing show. A lot of the stuff he's made, I have loved and didn't even realize that he was part of. You know, he did season 3 of Lost. Some people think that's the best season. You know, he wrote that. But, you know, he did this interview on YouTube where he explained a numbers clue and I was lost. You know, I mean, you know, literally, you know, metaphorically and literally, I didn't understand what I did. I'm not good at mathematics, to be honest, you know, I'm just not. So, you know, maths, not my strong point. Sorry, guys. So I don't know, but I think it might have some, you know, if I had to guess and I had the time, I might buy that book and see if the numbers correspond to like the 8,557th. I don't even know how you would do it, to be honest. But if someone said gun to your head, Taryn, you're going to make a wild stab at what it means. You know, I do believe that the numbers on the lighthouse are dates because I've just found too much to connect to them. So I'm kind of confused. Is there time travel to the future with a post-apocalyptic sort of world? I don't know what they mean. I hope we find out this season. But maybe it's something they want us to pore over for, you know, in between seasons, you know, basically a whole year for everyone to try and figure it out. Maybe it's really hard. I've tried, you know, don't get me wrong. You know, for me as well, I'm going to be honest with the showrunners. You know, I don't like to criticize I don't like to criticize the directing, and I don't like to criticize the acting or anything like that. And, you know, mostly because I don't have many issues with them, but also because I want to be polite and respectful of something I really enjoy. But I would say, you know, the thing that probably annoys me the most about From is that we really don't get clear images of major clues. And that basically makes me give up on wanting to try and solve them because I don't even know what I'm trying to solve. And it takes the fun out of it for me. Like, why does it help if you make something super blurry? And it basically means that people who do want to spend the time to try and solve it, but they just they can't see what it is. They're just like, it could be something, could be, give up. So I gave up. I gave up on the numbers because I can't read them all. I can maybe pick out a few, but why would I try and solve a puzzle when I only have a quarter of the pieces? So I don't like the number stuff because I'm bad at it, because I can't read them, because I'm not, and that's it. But clearly it's something really clever that Jeff Pinkner's put together, probably. So I have no idea what they mean. Close it will be mid-season, but not what you think. I don't quite understand. Close. Maybe it was a reference to something I was saying. Sorry, I don't get that one. Yeah. How did I come to the conclusion that Stephen King will end up in Fromville? You've also mentioned Michael Emerson coming onto the cast in the future. How do I divine these things? Okay, so first of all, I thought it was super cool that Stephen King actually filmed on the From set for his latest movie, Institution. And I made my Stephen King prediction long before that happened. So that was pretty cool. So clearly, if they were going to pick someone to put on the show, Jack Bender has filmed multiple Stephen King things. Tabitha is the name of Stephen King's wife. That's another clue. But mostly it's because of the same method I use for Lewis Carroll and all that stuff. I traced it all the way down, and I swear to God, it ends at Stephen King. And then you go on Stephen King, who's like, he's alive still, right? I mean, maybe it could be his son, Joe Hill, but I don't know for sure. But Stephen King would be appropriate. He would be appropriate. And he has a collection of read books, which I thought was really interesting because I've been tracing like a lot of these historical figures that are passing it. A lot of them are kind of connected to read books, or they're in paintings with read books and stuff like that, or red leather books. So he has like a red leather bound collection that he's known for as well. And there's so many references to Stephen King on the show. Just trust me, there are tons. So that's how I divine that. As for Michael Emerson, it really is a blind shot in the dark. There is a picture of what Tabitha thought was the boy in white, which makes me think this is less likely now, to be honest. But Tabitha identifies this painting as the boy in white, and you see it, or like half of it, in the intro. And I thought that drawing looks like Michael Emerson. So I was like, maybe one of the people in white, the man in white, maybe there's a man in white, would be Michael Emerson. It's a maze, not a tunnel. It certainly is a maze because I forgot to mention, in the game of Goose, another of the hazards is a maze. So it is a maze, but that's why on the show they specifically moved it so that they would have to go down this single super long tunnel that goes all the way to create the sense of a rabbit hole. And it's round, guys. It's way rounder than the other one. So that's just my thinking there. Is Jasper the Hatter? I guess he would be in this case. It would have been cool if they put a top hat on him, but maybe they thought that would be too obvious. There's references to Fringe by J.J. Abrams. Colors yellow, red, and blue mean something in Fringe. Okay, yeah. I mean, cool. I've never seen Fringe. Could you elaborate a little bit? I've seen 2 seasons worth of it, but, I haven't, I just ran out of free time basically lately, have basically none. Got a deadline coming up. I'm not going to really try and properly solve any of season 3 until probably like April, May next year, maybe. This is me watching the show, enjoying it, and these are the clues that jump out to me from one watch through. I've only watched each thing once. I've noted things down sometimes I like remember it, but this isn't me like super intensive theorizing at the moment. This is me watching, saying what's come to me that like just jumped out at me, and that's about it. Let's see. I'm not sure what the color means in From yet. I think it's emotions. And I'm starting to think that the color green means worry. And isn't it interesting that on Instagram, From shared a quote from Kenny saying, you worry too much. We'll be back before you know it. Worry, is it just a clue, or is it one of the emotions that people are feeling? I thought it was anger because Hannah Cherami, when she's playing Julie, brilliant actress, she comes out of Colony House and shouts at Ethan for being with Victor. And I thought that meant that it was anger. But seeing Boyd wearing it now, he's not very angry at the moment. He seems to be very worried about stuff. So, and then Ellis is wearing green. That also suggests worry. Is he wearing green? I don't know. So I'm thinking purple is actually anger because Nikki's wearing purple and she's angry at Fatima. So I've got these emotions wrong, but I did say in my theory that these are guesses because the context wasn't there. And I'm looking forward to Hannah Cherami having more of a role. I think it's in episode 8, maybe, based on the pictures, or maybe it's episode 7. I can't remember, but she seems to be hanging out with Randall, and she's referenced in the description, which means it's like a Julie episode. When Julie started on this show, she really was just playing this sort of slightly one-note, sullen teenager, which is fair enough given But then I really liked her in season 2 when she sort of seemed to accept her circumstances and sort of open up herself a little bit and sort of just be less, what's the word? She seemed to ruminate on herself a lot, and she seemed more like go with the flow, more open, more understanding, more giving herself to other people. I really like that. And then unfortunately at the end of season 2, we have her go through this thing. So the first half of season 3, a lot of it has been depressed Julie. And again, it's quite a one note thing, and she hasn't had a huge amount of agency. So I'm hoping that we'll see more agency from Julie going forward. Fingers crossed. Okay. Let's see what else. Greatest Thinker says the theory, Grandmaster Taran. Thank you, Greatest Thinker. Sometimes Greatest Thinker and I chat. He pointed out that when the pepper shakers are moved, when Boyd's doing this map, I really liked it. That he pointed out that like it's basically like there's two towers almost. You can see one across the table, and I was thinking maybe not only is there Cape Race Lighthouse, maybe there's some other lighthouse somehow connected to it. Maybe the Tower of Hercules, or maybe some sort of Irish lighthouse. I don't know. So I thought, that's the thing that Greatest Thinker pointed out to me. So thank you, Greatest Thinker. But it's not part of my theory, and I don't know if it's enough evidence to put it like, heavy. I need to see more evidence of two towers. But there's two towers in Lord of the Rings. And Tolkien is one of these people handing things across time. People using the word precious now. Yeah, season 3, right? Isn't it that Victor uses the word precious? I wonder if they use it in seasons 1 and 2 as well. Let's have a look. Yeah, nature will always put what's most precious in the spots most difficult to reach. Pretty awkward use of a word. Who knows? Still believe we will see a polar bear in season 3. It's becoming less and less likely. But the one thing that makes me think it is really Scott McCord. This would be tinfoil if Scott McCord didn't use a bear word when he had to pick one word to describe season 3. And I believe I've already told you guys about this lost connection I think that there is on the show. So I think if they put it, and it's actually the reason for the bear being there is connected to Inuit mythology, I think, and this mythological being called Loop Guru that can shapeshift into an owl, a dog, or a bear if they wish. And the bear trap, guys, is also a clue that there's a bear around potentially, So yeah, maybe in season 3, but it could be a season 4 thing. But wouldn't it be a crazy thing to have a polar bear at the end? I just feel like they're going to dump a whole ton of crazy on us right at the end before all the answers start. And if they're going to dump, if that's when crazy is, because the answers are super crazy as well. But I feel like if the polar bear is crazy mystery, not crazy answer. So it feels like it would be this season, but I have no way of knowing. And, I haven't been right about much so far, to be honest. I'm just seeing more clues to things I've predicted as opposed to actually things I've predicted. And there's no sign of time travel yet. So unless that's the big twist at the end of season 3, I don't know. Maybe I've lost my mind. And a lot of this stuff is just completely, wild speculation and seeing patterns that don't exist and wasting a lot of my free time. But I don't think so. I don't know. I think it could be the twist at the end of season 3. I think that's the big thing. There's too many historical figure references. I can't, it's so weird. Like the way people react to my theory makes me doubt myself so much. And yet when I sit about it and I think about it, I'm like, no, I've seen too much. It's, could it really be? Have I made this all up? So, that's my thinking there. People telling me my screen is dark. Sorry, guys, I wasn't looking at the chat. Thank you to who did message me on Discord, because that actually popped up. Grumbledore. Thank you, the Grumbledore. Okay, it's almost 8 o'clock when I said I would join Real. Do I still subscribe to the OK theory? Absolutely. Absolutely I do. Why wouldn't I? They've used OK a ton, an absolute ton. And I've decided that if OK Ito is not revealed to be her name by the end of this season, I'm going to make a graph. Okay, I'm going to make a graph that will show the number of OKs used in each episode, because not only do they overuse it like a silly amount on the show, but they always, I don't know if they did this for season 3, because I haven't messed about with transcripts yet, because I know that they're floating around someone that like might be ahead potentially, like 1 or 2 ahead of what we're seeing. From what, like, there's so many people writing spoilers on Reddit. I'm like sort of trying not to read Reddit too much, or like when I see a block of text, I skim through it. But there are spoilers on there. But what was my point? What was my point? Yes. If not, so they front load the first episodes of each season with OKs. It's a stupid amount. So that's my thinking there. I still think she is OK Ito. I just do. I mean, if it's not a clue to OK Ito, no, it just has to be. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see. Because the thing that does freak me out is that they've chosen a Chinese actress to play her, and she's very, very good. She's got a very good ethereal look. Sort of that slightly unusual model look and she's really tall, and I can see it. And they're animating the face, so maybe that's an interesting approach. But I wonder if they're going to if she becomes an actual character, physical character on the show. Will they have someone from a different Asian race? Maybe it happens, I guess, but that did make me doubt it a little bit. If you look at the date, the Matthews family disappeared. The dates go the same both forward and backwards. Oh, that's interesting. Is that palindrome? I think they're called. Very cool. Maybe I should look into that. Yeah. Map is upside down on the left. I think it's a clue. I don't know what we were referencing, so I'll have to go back and look. Delcenia talking about a birthday boy again. I guess it's Real's birthday. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to jump on his channel in a bit. Please upload this live when you're done. War of the Roses, Taryn. Yes. I think I saw you write that before I actually said what it was, maybe. So well done if you did. End of the beginning, yeah. Spoiler for Manifest. I haven't seen Manifest, so I don't think I did spoil it. I heard actress who plays Donna was told that From is a show that gets really good after season 3. Yes, I was the one who mentioned that in a live, I think, once. So maybe that's where you got it from. She said it in an interview with this amazing YouTube channel, and I think they're on Facebook too, called What is Fromcast. Really, wonderful, kind-hearted people, super fans who do these really long form, very relaxed and laid back interviews with the actors, which is a complete breath of fresh air. These short 10-minute scripted ones, I do enjoy them and I do watch them, but you don't really get that sort of feeling of who that person is and what they're really thinking and feeling, especially as the questions are quite, sort of journalistic questions quite often, which often requires a sort of more vetted answer. So I really enjoy those free form interviews that they do. So yeah, definitely recommend. People saying that's Wild Law, perhaps a reference to Oscar Wilde there. Taryn, are you coming? Delcenia says she's doing double duty. Taryn, we are missing you. All right, I guess I'm going to have to leave. But I do want to reply to my comments. And I did say to Real 8 p.m. I'm sorry if he started early. What can I do? I needed an hour today, not half an hour. Sorry. I will jump on in a minute. I think you're too smart for most of us. Trust me, I'm not. I'm just more obsessed than most of you. And I have a specific skill set that's quite useful for the show. Trust me, I'm no genius or anything like that. I'm maybe just nuts at this point. I don't know. I keep doubting myself these days. You can make a mod with just the YouTube app. Thank you, Plumbing. I'll do that next time. I'm rushing through these now because I'm being pestered. Real message me. Okay, all right. I feel like there's lots of Japanese, Irish, and Native American folklore used in the show. I haven't seen much Japanese myself, personally, but maybe I'm wrong. There are many numbers, types, whole numbers, negative numbers, prime numbers, irrational numbers. Interesting. Grumbledor's going. Have a good one too. Stephen is farsier. Show what it is to come. I don't know what that means. The Dark Tower story is very similar to From also. Yeah, there's so many connections, guys. Trust me. Even the spider for Tolkien as well. Sorry, just thought I mentioned that. I think the word, yeah. Are you coming? The family is split. I'm sorry, I am coming. People talking about the colors. It'll be funny if Michael Emerson says to Boyd, now you really are one of the good guys. Yeah. Taryn, your theories are my favorite. Oh, that's the same thing I answered last time. We are waiting for you in real stream and Goosed evening. No way that all of this theory crafting is apophenia, lol. You have to be right on at least 30% of this. Apophenia, that's the word I was looking for. I used pareidolia last time, but I think that's more of a visual thing or something. Do you still think Tilly is somehow a witch? I don't think she's a witch. I think she's the hag. specifically. And I don't think she's either good or bad. I think she's the neutral angel, the green angel maybe, but actually no, she's probably different. She wears green, kind of. John Griffin, you confuse the hell out of me with your stuff. I mean, yeah, the color stuff is particularly confusing. I may be completely wrong about the emotions and the colors, actually. I may even be wrong about the different players being associated with different colors, because it's so vague. The clues we have to work with are so vague. I'm going to be wrong about a lot of how like this game world works, I think, to be honest. I'm so late, goddammit. Taryn, I've been waiting for you. Dulcina says, okay, it's his birthday. He is excited. Okay, here's the map. Someone's linked something, but links don't work. Don't let the imposter syndrome get to you, Taryn. You're doing the Lord's work. I missed the beginning of this, dang it. Why did Tabitha say 3 red stones that are in a circle? I think it's a clue to a board game called Bear Game, where there's 3 game pieces that need to trap a bear, 3 hunter game pieces. So I think these are like red colored game pieces that were painted, and now they're sort of like enormous in this sort of miniaturized, like a captured curse somehow. Okay, last couple questions or comments. These are not clues, they are Easter eggs. I covered this earlier, guys. The story describing is awesome, though, and you will have to write that book. I don't think they are Easter eggs, personally, because of where the paths that I've followed end up, I guess. But you may be right. I may have read way too much into it. That may be all they're doing. And again, that may be where the apophenia is. That may be where it is. Do I think they'll introduce time travel at the end of the season? Yes, I do. Okay. Right. Thanks very much, everyone, for watching. I'm leaving now because it is Real's birthday, so I am going to leave. But I thank you all for watching. I'll try and join next week. I'll also try and replace my thumbnail. For some reason, it's kind of blurry, but it's HD when I look at it, so I think maybe it's the wrong dimensions or something. But yeah, thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate your time. Goodbye.